Okay, now we're just about ready. We'll get started. Okay, Gavalta. So we learned the Mishnah on Friday, but we'll chazer it over. Mi shahaya nasoi dalad noshim. Someone who's married to four women, umeis, and he died. And all of the shibudim were enacted simultaneously. So the halacha is I apologize. They were not simultaneous. It was done sequential. So first the first, then the second, and the third, and the fourth. So the first woman is in the first position to collect. So there's only enough assets for the first one to collect her ksuba. Then she's first. She gets it. The second is before the third. And the third is before the fourth. But the first woman, when she's taking her ksuba, it's to the detriment of the other wives because she's depleting the estate, so there's less or not enough to pay out the other women. So therefore, nishbas l'shniya, she has to swear when she collects her ksuba that she didn't receive her ksuba yet, that her husband didn't pay her in cash, because since her taking is to the detriment of the others, they have a right to demand that she swear that she in fact is owed the ksuba. And the same thing with the shnil shlishes, who shlishes l'revius. But the revius, who is not hurting any of the other women by taking, because she only takes after everybody already got already, she is nefrash like b'shvua. She can swear without a shvua. And Rashi said, she's taking from the estate, so she should have to swear to the assignment. So Rashi says that there's a machlokes, which we're going to learn Amud Beis. Amud Aleph. There's a machlokes that we're going to learn on Amud Aleph, whether or not you have to swear to Yosayim Gedolim. Maybe that you only could take from the Nichsi Yosayim with a shvua is if they're minors. But if they're adults, our Mishnah would hold that you don't have to swear. Benana says, I don't get it. Because she's in the fourth position, she should benefit that she doesn't have to swear. And our answer to that would be, of course, because she's not hurting anybody. So why should she have to swear? So the Gemara is going to propose different shotim in why Benanis holds that she has to swear. So Benanis says, she would have to swear as well. What if what if they were all meshubed exactly the same day? The ksuba was all written the same day. Then afilu shah achas zochso. Anybody who's before even by 1 hour is like, now if all of the ksubas have the same date on them, but they're time stamped, well then once again the earliest.
But if they're not time, since when do you have to time stamp a ksuba?
In Yerushalayim only, they actually used the time stamped ksubas. In other places, not. But in fact, in Yerushalayim, they used to do that, which means men were marrying multiple women the same day. Because otherwise, why would they have to stamp them? But we're going to learn soon that in Yerushalayim, they time stamped all documents, even regular stories. Because this could also be relevant if someone sells the same property to two people. Who really gets it? So if there's a timestamp, we know who got it first. What if their ksubas are all called at the same time? They were all written at the same time. Then the Einsham Elamona, and there's only one mona, which definitely is not enough to satisfy all of the shibudim. Cholkosh b'shava it's splodidim. Why would Benanis hold that this woman has to swear? Amar Shmuel, Zok Shmuel, and we are going to turn over the Amid to Daf Tzadik Dalit Amar Aleph. Imagine what happens if lady number one finds out that the field that she took might not belong to her husband. It might be a stolen field, which means it's very likely that the real owner of this field is going to come and take the field away from her, repossess the field. Now she needs to go after the fourth field. The question is could she? or maybe once the fourth woman already got that field, you can no longer take it away from her. And that would be the shaila. If someone who was in the fourth position or the third position came and took karka before a Baal Chayv who was in an earlier position, you make them give it back. So that's what's relevant over here. This woman who is in the fourth position took karka, but it turns out that she really took it before a woman who was entitled to take it earlier, because the karka that the other woman took was repossessed. So Tanakama Sober Mashagova Loigo. We take it away from the fourth. Once the third or the second or the first loses their karka, then they can go and take it away from the fourth. So therefore, when the fourth took it, it was to the detriment of nobody. So there's no reason for it to swear. Once this fourth woman took a field, even if one of the other women lose their field, they cannot go back to the fourth woman and take it away from her. Once she got it, she can hold on to it. Therefore, when she does take it, it's to the detriment of others.
Can the woman the tinus that the husband would have had? He said that I have a chazaka.
Yeah, all those tinus will be made on behalf of the estate. But what if they all fail, and in fact, that field gets repossessed? So that's where one of the earlier women will now want to go and take the field away from the fourth woman. If they could take it away, then there's no reason for the fourth woman to swear, because she can't hold on to the field to the detriment of anybody. But if we wouldn't be able to go back and take the field to the fourth, that means when the fourth is taking her field, it's very much to the detriment of the others. Therefore, we make her swear. So Rashi tells us that this is only if that actually is going on. Meaning, one of the earlier women found out that there's some type of error, there's talk that her field might not really belong to the estate. So when they're going to distribute the fourth field to the fourth wife, she'll show up in Bezin, and she'll say, Bezin, okay, you can give her that fourth field, but I wanted to swear that it's coming to her, because if she takes that fourth field and I end up losing the field that I took, now I'm losing. So I demand of her a shvur. That's what Rashi says. But the other Rishonim say, no matter what, you make the fourth woman swear. Even if right now there is no shot, there is no error on one of the earlier fields, but since it's possible that sometime in the future that might happen, that's enough now to demand a shvua even from the fourth wife. Zog to Gemara, Rab Nachman Omer Rabba Bar Avua, D'chula alma mashagava loigav. Everybody holds, Sai Benanis and Sai the Tanakama holds, that you would take the field away from the fourth if one of the earlier women had their field taken away from them. And therefore, there's no need to make the fourth woman swear, because her claiming of the karka is to the detriment of nobody. So then why does Benanis hold you need to make a shvur? Here the whole style is, if this fourth woman gets her field and they don't ask her to swear, she knows that she can easily lose it, because she knows the fact that they didn't make her swear means that if anything goes wrong with the fields of any of the other previous women, they're just going to take her field away. So imagine if she has a field and she doesn't think she's going to be holding on to it for too long. It's like a rental car. Is she going to change the oil? I don't think so. Is she going to drive it rough? She sure will. So this woman is going to rape the field. She's going to take whatever she put out of this field in the time that she has it, but she won't upgrade it, she won't service it, she won't protect it. And then it's going to get ruined. And when one of the other women have to take it, they're going to end up with a ruined field. So therefore, we make her swear, because when she swears, now she thinks, hey, if they're making me swear, I guess I'm going to be able to keep this field no matter what. And therefore, she'll take good care of it. So Zog to Gemara, the whole trial is are we concerned that she's going to ruin the field? And therefore, we make her swear. Then she'll think she's going to be able to hold on to the field, and she'll take care of it. We don't need to worry about that. We don't have to make her swear. This is a very difficult shot, because we're not making her swear because she's hurting anybody else. We're making her swear to fool her into thinking that she'll be able to keep the field. All she has to do is ask any rov, And then Rebbe will tell her, no, you're not going to be able to keep the field, even though you're swearing. So she'll still won't take care of it. So what is this? What is this svara now that you make her swear? So the Rishonim tell us what we're trying to accomplish with the shvuah is to get her not to take it. She'll leave it in the estate, and then if she leaves it in the estate, it won't get ruined. If she uses it, it'll get ruined. But if she leaves it in the estate, it won't get ruined. But then the shaila is, the Rishonim asks, Tosfos asks, if she leaves it in the estate, it's still going to get ruined. You know why? Because the Yosayim have this field in the estate. They also know that this field might be seized by one of the wives if they lose their field. So the same way we're worried about wife number 4 not taking care of the field, we should be just as worried as the Yosayim not taking care of the field if they feel they're not going to be able to hold on to it for very long. Zog Tosfos a gewaltige halacha, that if a woman who loses her field comes back to the Yosayim and tries to take that field from them, the Yosayim could tell them, no, we'll pay you out in cash. We will pay you out in cash, but we're going to keep the field. So therefore, they will protect the field, they will service it properly. But the 4th woman, if one of the earlier wives comes to her and tells her, I want to seize the karka back, she cannot say, I'll pay you off. She doesn't have a right to do that. The earlier wife has a right to actually take the property away. And therefore, since she doesn't feel confident that she'll be able to keep this property, she's not going to take care of it, and that's why we make her swear. Abai said, no, a much simpler shot. We're not going to Shem Tichset. So why do we make her swear? The Abai Keshisha Ikebenai. The Hiddish that the old Abai said, that's what the Machloikis is between Benanas and the Tanakam. The Tani Abai Keshisha. Yosayim Mishamru, that we say in order to take anything, in order to make any claim. From the Nixi Yosayim, a shvu is required. A shvu is required. That's gedolim. Even if the Yosayim are adults, you still have to swear to them. Surely, if the Yosayim are minors, surely you would have to swear to them. So Tanakama, let's lay down by Keshisha. The Tanakama holds that if these children are adults, you don't have to swear to them. And our Mishnah is speaking with adult children, adult Yosayim. Ubenanis islay dabaya Keshisha. Benanis holds that even for a minor, even for an adult Yosem, you have to swear, and that's why we're asking this 4th woman to swear. So she's actually not swearing to the other wives because she's taking to their detriment. She's swearing to the estate, she's swearing to the Yosayim, which is what Rashi said in the Mishnah. And that's the end of this sugya. So Zok to Gemara. Amar Afuna, there were these 2 brothers, or two shutfim. So it means 2 shutfim. They were brothers and they were shutfim, or they were just shutfim. The islu dina bahade dad. So let's say there's a plaintiff that makes a claim against this partnership. Both partners did not attend the court case. Only one of the 2 partners attended the court case to defend the partnership against this claimant. The halacha is, and let's say, in fact, that the partnership loses and they become liable to make a payment, let's say, of $5,000. So the other should've cannot say, the other should've cannot say, at la bal dvarim didiyat. My should've, he'll pay his debt, $2,500. But my up, I'm not paying. He has no right. You have no right to take from me. You have to come to take me to the entire separate. You don't allow that. We say that his partner was doing his shlichus, and if when his partner stood in the entire, he was found to be liable. The partnership was found to be liable $5,000. The partnership has to pay up to $5,000. The Rishonim will learn it's the opposite, where the partnership was the claimant, and if the partnership was the claimant, and one partner went to the entire and won the claim, now the person who's paying to the partnership could say, I'm only paying to one partner, I'm not paying to the other partner. So there's a shaila to what from the Gemara, the partners shouldn't make a difference. Gewaltig. Dr. Gemara, Ikloi Rab Nachman L'Sura. Rab Nachman wasn't so sure about this halacha that we just learned from Rav Huna. And he asked, Shailui ki ha'agadna. Mai. They asked him in Surah, what is the halacha in such a case with two partners? Amaluhu, Rab Nachman answered, Masnisani. It's actually our mission. Because what does our mission say? Harishonon l'shbas l'shniya, u'shniya l'shlishis, u'shlishis l'ravias. Ve'ilu rishonon l'shlishis l'katani. We say the first wife has to swear to the second. Well, her taking is to the detriment of the second, to the third, and the fourth. So why doesn't she have to swear to all of them? Why does she only have to swear to the shadis? My time, since all the other women, 2, 3, and 4, are in a partnership, so to speak, because they're equally being detrimented by this first woman who's taking her first piece of karka, swearing to one is enough. So you see that when you're dealing with one member of a partnership, that's good enough. Zok but that's not a good raya. Midami. If you make a shvur, if she makes a shvur, I didn't get paid out yet. What's the difference who she's swearing for? It's the same information. So why would you suggest that you would have to swear again to each other? The shvur that she had to make has already been made. So there's no svara to require her to make the same shvur again for another partner, for the other women. But Hacha, here there's a huge difference. Because Omar, the other partner will say, Ilu anara havoi te'inin. Had I been there by the entire, I would have had much better times. I would have hired a much better lawyer, and I wouldn't have been found liable to pay. So I'm not going to get prejudiced by the fact that he didn't have a good lawyer and he didn't make his case properly. So therefore, you don't have a right from a Mishnah, and in fact, one shutta was not responsible for the other shutta. However, there's a caveat. When could he say that you're losing the case shouldn't impact me? That's if I wasn't there at the time of the case. So I didn't have a way of coming. If I was there and I didn't come, when I should have come, well, then he should have come, and then both shittim are going to be liable for the performance of only one at the dinner. So there was a very interesting shaila that happened in Lodz. In Lodz, Poland, there was a landlord, and he was evicting a Jewish tenant for not paying his rent. So you know how nowadays you walk by the Zoltis homes or any other apartment building owners' homes, and there's always protests going on from tenants who are upset about the rent being raised. So that happened in Lodz, Poland as well. And there was a whole protest outside this man's house saying, Rasha, how could you evict a poor Jew and throw out a poor Jewish family on the street? So he was under pressure, and they dragged him to the Imre Emes, the Ger Rebbe. And the Rebbe told him, how could you throw out a poor Yid on the street? So he told the Rebbe, guy's a knocker. You're worried about throwing out a poor Yid on the street? So come up with the money. All these do-gooders who are harassing me, let them come in money. Let each of them chip in, let them pay the rent. Just because it's my building, why do I have to eat the whole lot? You want me to take the tzaddik? You raise the money. So the Imre Emes says, I'm sorry, the mitzvah showed up in your building. You have to eat it. And he brought a beautiful raya from the Gemara Gittin. The halacha is if two partners own an Evet Knaini, and one of the two partners frees that Evet Knaini, so now you have a fellow who's half Evet and half Ben Chayrin. He can't marry a Shivcha because of his Tad Yisrael. He can't marry a Yisrael because of his Tad Avos. So since he can't marry anybody, we force his owner to free him, and the Eved will write him an IOU note for the half that he's freeing him, which the Ger Rebbe said that IOU note is worthless because there's no way he's ever going to get his money out of that Eved, and he has to eat it. So why doesn't the Gemara ask right there, why do you force him? Why don't you go around the community, raise money, and pay off the other half? Why in the world do you force this guy who's the owner to suffer? The teretz is, if Hashem put your situation over here, you got to pay. So the guy said, okay, you the Ger Chuzri has to pay. But what happened? This guy had a partner in the building. And the partner says, because you're a Ger Chuzri, I'm not paying. You can pay, but I'm not going to tolerate that in my building. So this Shaila Gemara, the fact that his partner went to the Ger Rebbe and the Ger Rebbe told him that he has to let this Jew continue living there, does the other partner have to suffer because of that? And they told him yes. So that was the story of the eviction of Lodge. Zok the Helig Gemara weiter. Itmar. Bein Shtoros Hayoitim B'Yom Echad. Rashi learns someone sold the property to Reuven and to Shimon, and I think it came along with a free bridge. And basically, the stories were written the same day. Reuven bought this property from Scammer on the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Shimon bought this property from Scammer on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So the question is, who owns this property? Zok the Gemara, Rav Omer Cholkin. Rav said these two people, they split the property and the Brooklyn Bridge that came with it. The Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, who did the Dayanim? The Dayanim have to make an assessment. Now, we had a couple of bled there ago that there's a Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos what Shuda the Dayanim means. The Shuda the Dayanim means they have to look into his brain, into the brain of the scam artist, and figure out who this guy would have wanted to give the field to, friend A or friend B, and that's what they paskin. Or the Shuda the Dayanim mean that the Dayanim on their own can give it to whoever they want to give it to. So that's the Shaila. Now, we also learned then that nowadays Shuda the Dayanim does not apply. When we had a real Dayanim in the days of the Tanoim and Amoraim, they had Shuda the Dayanim. Once the times of the Rishonim period came, they didn't allow Shuda the Dayanim anymore because there's way too much corruption. So the question is, what is this machlokes between Rav and Shmuel? Why Rav says Cholkin and why Shmuel says Shuda the Dayanim? Zok the Gemara, Lema Rav the Amar Kreb Meir the Amar Ede Chasimikars. Let's say Rav says Cholkin, not because it's a suffix, because my Ikar Adin, they each were kind of the field at precisely the same time. How do you get that? So Rashi explains ever so beautiful. Kreb Meir the Amar, lenient get. Reb Meir was talking about Gittin. And Reb Meir wanted to know what is the force of the get? Which part of the get creates the creases? Reb Meir said, Eideh Chasim Ikar. The main thing is the Eidim that signed on the star. They're creating the chalois of the get. That's the Ikar creases. V'chein l'inyan stars. And we want to apply the halacha that Reb Meir said. Look, how the get should apply to all stars. The kinyan of the star, or whatever the star is supposed to be accomplishing, is accomplished through the chasim of the Eidim. The Elush name Nechdemu B'Yom Echad. These two stars were both signed on the same day, and it's also Uvamokim Shein Kosmin Shoyes. It's in a place where they didn't timestamp it. So both of these stars were written for the same day. Any city where there's no timestamps, whenever there's two stars written to the same day, it's automatically accepted as policy. The purchasers are agreeing that we don't care if one was earlier in the day and one was later in the day. Even if one transaction, one star was written in the morning and one was written in the afternoon, everybody agrees. The assumption is that they all work at the same time. One cannot mun before the other one. Hilchach, therefore, my shuda the daini ikal meimar. There's no room to say shuda the daini because it's clear what the transaction is. There's no reason to assume one person has more of a koich in this purchase than the other because both of their kinyonim were chal at the same time, meaning they're going to be partners here. And that's why Rav holds it. Okay. The Rishonim ask on this. So if you tell me that whenever a star doesn't have a date, so it's challah to end the day together. So you that if someone's makash a lady with a star, she's not a neshishish until the end of the day. So the Rishonim massage this side a little bit. They say no. We say the kinyan is chal right away, but it's chal al manas that nothing else happens between now and the end of the day. But should something else happen between now and the end of the day, that thing should impact it as well. So therefore, she's mukadeshes now, provided that he doesn't give her a get or nothing else happens by the end of the day. So that's how they try to massage the shaila, but that's just trying to precisely when it's chal and how it works. But whatever the case is, both people, being that their star is dated the same day, we look at it like they were both koined at the same time, and therefore it's yechlik. And that's the svar of Rav. Shmuel, so we're going to turn over onto Daf Tzadik Daled Amud Beis. Shmuel Amar Karabi Loser, who hold the Amar Edim Isira Karson. The transaction isn't done by the Chasim. The transaction is done by the Edim who actually see it being given over. So here, whichever set of Edim, you need the Edim here to tell us that this was legit, that the star was transferred. So whichever Edim came earlier, and if we don't know which ones came earlier, now it's a suffix. So we don't know what to do because it's either one person owns it or the other person owns it. It's not like they both happen at the same time, and therefore we say Shuda the Dayanim. Let's see Rashi. Shmuel the Amar Krabalazar, the Amar Af al pi she'eino lov Edim el shenosnu b'fnei Edim. Even though the star is not even signed, but it was given over in front of Edim, it creates all of the impact that a star needs to make, including if it's a star choiv, you could collect from the chasum mishubadim. She'eino Edim choyzun ala get elam b'nei tikun ha'olam. The Edim that signed the get are not really impacting the chalois at all. They're only doing it to help us in the event of a problem. Shema Yamusu Edim Mesira. Let the Edim Mesira die, and we don't have any way to verify that a get was given. Or Yel Chulu Medina Sayam, or they're not available. That's where you have Edim Mesira. But that they're not really affecting the get. They're just going to help us with information. So Alma Edim Mesira, from this psak of Rabbi Lozer, you see that it's the Edim Mesira that affect the transaction. So therefore, V'hacha, this crook who sold the same property to two people, maybe he liked one of the people that he was going to rip off more than the other person that he was going to rip off. And therefore he made sure to give it the star to the person who he wanted to get the karka. And by selling to the second one, he was just being a crook, and he fooled the second person and sold him a property that in fact didn't even belong to him because he had already sold it earlier. And since we don't know who is the one who was koined and who was the one who was ripped off, Nema we say, Shuda the Dayanim, the Dayanim figure out what it is. And look how Rashi describes it. Lefi ma jahem royim mi mehem hayirogel es layoser. The Dayanim have to look at these two people and think who was better, who had a better relationship with this scam artist seller. And whoever they assess had a better relationship, they can assume would be the one that this seller wanted to sell to. It's better that they should make an assessment of who it belongs to than splitting it misafik. So that's the machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Rav holds a dechasim akarsi. So therefore we'll say that the transactions occurred simultaneously, and therefore chachleiku. Rabbi Lozer holds these transactions are Edim Mesir Kasi, so they definitely did not occur simultaneously, which means the second person was scam. We don't know who it was, so we say Shuda the Dayanim. Zokt Gemara Loi. Let's not say they're arguing in the same machlokes as a machlokes Tanoim. Rather, the Chula Alma Rabbi Lozer. Let's say everybody holds that Edim Mesir Kasi. So if that's the case, why would Rav say Yachloiku if it's Edim Mesir Kasi? Rav holds the best way to deal with this suffix is not by making a wild guess assessment. It's by splitting it. That's the fairest way to resolve such a situation. The best thing is for Bezin to make that assessment. So now we want to say that both Rav and Shmuel agreed that Edim Mesir Kasi. Frank the Gemara, I'm going to prove to you that that's not the case. That Rav does not hold Edim Mesir Kasi. Why? Because umi mukbus leila Rav Rabbi Elazar. How could you tell me that Rav holds like Rabbi Elazar? That Eidim Mesir Karsi. The Omer Rabbi Yehuda Omer Rav. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Halacha Rabbi Elazar, begin. We pass can Eidim Mesir begin. And Ki Amrisa Kamedi Shmuel Omer Af Bishtaris. Shmuel said, not only does Rabbi Elazar's halacha of Eidim Mesir Karsi apply to Gittin, it applies to Bishtaris. Rav said it only applies to Bishtaris and not Begittin. So how could you say that in our case over here, Rav Ozak Rabbi Elazar, that Eidim Mesir Karsi, according to Rav, even Rabbi Elazar didn't say the halacha by Ishtaris. So you cannot argue that Rav agrees by Ishtar here that Eidim Mesir Karsi. Mechlal the Rav Savar B'Ishtaris Loi. Ela Machavito, we have to go back to our original pshat, Rav Rav Meir. Rav says it's Shachloiku because of Rav Meir, and he holds by regular stars as Eideh Chasima Karsi. Shmuel Rabbi Elazar and Shmuel holds even by regular stars it's Eideh Mesir Karsi. Meisei Freik the Gemara Akash on Shmuel. You Shmuel are saying that you say Shudit the Dayanim. Well, that's not what the Mishnah says. That's not what the Brisa says. Meisei Shnei Stars Hayotzim B'Yoy Mechad Cholkin. So you have a Brisa that agrees with Rav. So how can Shmuel argue on a Brisa? Tiyot to the Shmuel. Does this indicate that Shmuel is slugged up? Amalach Shmuel, no. Hamani Reb Meiri. I only said my halacha because I possibly like Rabbi Elazar. The Mishnah or the Brisa that you quoted, the Tzedek Leku, is going according to Reb Meir. V'anodami Rabbi Elazar. I only said according to Rabbi Elazar, the halacha would be Shuddha D'Dayanim. Correct the Gemara, you cannot say that this Brisa is Reb Meir. This Brisa has to be Rabbi Elazar. So it's going to be Shver and Shmuel. Because you see that Rabbi Elazar holds Cholkin. How do I know this Brisa cannot be Reb Meir? Because he Reb Meir in a sefer. Let's look at the sefer of this same Brisa. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he wrote a star that says, I'm giving this property to Reuven. And then at 12 o'clock, he wrote another. Now, he wrote the star, I'm giving the property to Reuven at 9 a.m. But he didn't give the star to Reuven. The star is still sitting in his office. At 12 o'clock, noontime, he wrote another star, I'm giving this property to Shimon. And that star he actually gave over to Shimon. Umasar Lakar. So the halach is in the Brisa is there, Shemotar Leikana. The person who he made the Mesirah to Shimon is Kana. Frank, the Gemara of Reb Meir and my Kana. According to Reb Meir, the Mesirah has no value. It's all about Eideh Chasima. Ha'amar Eideh Chasima Karsi. So this Brisa surely cannot be going according to Reb Meir. Because according to Reb Meir, the 9 o'clock star is the star that would create the king. So once you say that about to go according to Rabbi Elazar, and the Brisa says even according to Rabbi Elazar it's spoken, it's Shver and Shmuel who says that according to Rabbi Elazar, the halacha would be Shuddha D'Dayanim. Zok Gemara, you're right, Tanai, it's a machlekes Tanaim, whether or not the best way to approach such a suffix is with Shuddha D'Dayanim, which is Shmuel Shita, according to Rabbi Elazar, and there's other Tanaim who hold that the best way to resolve such a suffix is with a halukah. So it will actually be, I believe Rashi says, it'll actually be a machlokes in what Rabbi Elazar said. It'll actually be a machlokes in what Rabbi Elazar says. So let's hear Rashi. I love Rabbi Elazar. V'ikalamei meshuda, v'ikalamei chalukah. So tanoihi ikalamei meshuda, v'ikalamei chalukah adifa. So I believe it's a machlokes in what would be better, according to Rabbi Elazar, that Eidim Mesir Karsi. What's the right way to deal with it? Sofik? Is it chalukah or is it Shuddha D'Dayanim? So where do you find specifically that there's actually a machlokes tanoim about the best way to deal with a suffix? The Tanya we learned, and Rashi gives us background as to what this is talking. So let's slide into Rashi. Bishili parak coming to Gittin. At the end of the first parak of Gittin, someone wanted to give money to his friend. So he went to a shliach and he said, "Hoylech mana laplani. Please take this $100 and take it to that city and give it to Beryl." Let's not use that name, Beryl. It's not a good idea. Give it to Moshe Pipik. V'halach ubikshu. And they went and he looked for Moshe Pipik. He couldn't find him, Shemaitz, because Moshe Pipik had died. And therefore, there's no one to give this money to. So what does he do? It's called back to return to sender. The post office tabs it, return to sender. Yachzur l'mishalech. Well, what if when he comes back to the mishalech, meis ha-mishalech? Now the mishalech's not around. So yachzur l'yorshim. Give it back to the yorshim. The Chachamim say they split it. The Yorshim of the giver split it with the Yorshim of the receiver. That's what the first Tana says. That's what the first Tana says. The Chanaru, the Brisa continues and says the Chanaru, but here in Bavel we have a different approach, and we say Mashayir to Shlish Yasa. The Shliach can give it to whomever he wants. The Hainu Shliach Yasa. He can do whatever he wants. Amashuda Adifa. To right over here in his Brisa, you see both opinions. We have one opinion that says Yachlaiku, Yachlaiku, and in Bavel Chanamar Mashayir to Shlish Yasa. So right there, you see very clearly a machlokes of what the best approach is. Zok to Gemara. Ime the Rami Bar Chama, the mother of Rami Bar Chama, she had these two boys, Rami Bar Chama and Mar Uchva Bar Chama. We had a discussion with them in the past. Because Vesinu Lenichsa LeRami Bar Chama. B'tzafra. In the morning, she wrote a star. Rami Bar Chama, my dear Rami, I'm giving you all my nechas. L'orta, that same evening, because Vesinu L'Mar Uchva Bar Chama. She wrote a star to give all of her assets to Mar Uchva Bar Chama. So now the question is, who gets the assets? So also Rami Bar Chama l'Chamei Rab Sheshes. Rami Bar Chama came with a star to Rab Sheshes, and he told him this was signed first thing in the morning versus my brother's star that was signed in the evening. Ukmi b'nichsa. He said, you get it. And we're soon going to see that Rab Sheshes' justification for giving the asset to Rabbi Chama was because he held like Reb Meir that Eidech Hatzima Karsi, and the star, your star, was written first. Also, Mar Ukva l'Kamei Rab Nachman. Mar Ukva went to a different posik. He went to Rab Nachman, and Rab Nachman was the greatest posik of all. He was connected with the Reish Kalusa. He was a real powerful man. And you know what he did? Ukme ben Nichsa. He said, no, I'm giving it to Mar Ukva. So also Rab Sheshes said, how could you undo my psak? Also Rab Sheshes l'Kamei Rab Nachman. Rab Sheshes came to Rab Nachman. Amalei, my time of Mar Ukva. Why would you award this to Mar Ukva Bar Chama after I awarded it to Rabbi Bar Chama? Amalei, so Rab Sheshes, so Rab Nachman asked Rab Sheshes, umay taima of Mar Ukva. Rab Nachman told Rab Sheshes, well, why did you pass that it goes to Rabbi Bar Chama? Where did you get such a psak from? Amalei, so Rab Sheshes said, I'll tell you why I gave it to Rabbi Bar Chama. The conduct. His star was written in the morning. And I passed like a mayor into the Karsi, so therefore, Rami Bar Chama got everything. So Rab Nachman said, bad shot. Are we in Yerushalayim, the Chasvin and Shoyes, where we timestamp the stars? Of course not. So there's no timestamp. So they're both these stars are happening at the same time. So you made a grubba amarachis, a mistake, Reb Sheshes, and you're wrong. So Reb Sheshes said, okay, I'm wrong. But why are you giving it to Mar Ukva? Reb Sheshes asked Reb Nachman. Elamar, my time over Rachi, why did you do it? I'm like, because I'm a dying, and I have a right to say who it goes to, and I say it goes to Mar Ukva. So then Reb Sheshes backtracked. He said, well, I'm like, and then I'm shoot it to Dani. So then I can say that I didn't shoot it to Dani, and I gave it to Rabbi Bar Chama. I'm like, Reb Nachman told him, Reb Sheshes, you are wrong. Chada, number one, I'm not dying. I'm a real dying. I can do shoot it to Dani. Umar Lav Dani, you Reb Sheshes, you're a lightweight. You're not a dying. You don't have a right to say shoot it to Dani. And Rashi tells us, what do you mean I'm a daina? I'm a daina, I'll be Rosh Kalusa Yeshiva. I have been anointed and I'm registered as the daina. So of course I will overrule you. You're just a yeshiva guy who thinks he knows the stock, so you're paskening. That doesn't count. My shooter works, your shooter doesn't work. And also you're still lying to me. Because a moment ago you told me that the reason why you gave it to Rabbi Bar Chama is because it's going according to your mayor and your star was written earlier. And that psak is an outright mistake because there's no timestamp in this city. So v'oid meikara, originally didn't you tell me lav b'torah sachi atzasla? You didn't come with Shuda the Daini, you came with another psak. So you can't backtrack and change around. So you're wrong and I'm right. So there's a very interesting story about this. In Bnei Brak, someone's dog went into his neighbor and chewed up his tefillin, messed up his tefillin. So there was a shaila, the Dayanim wanted to know, does he have to pay nezek shalom? Nezek shalom, because it's like shame. A dog saw leather, he smelled it, he thought it was food, and he chewed on it. That's shame. That's chayiv nezek shalom. Or maybe the dog ate the leather out of anger, like Karen, like an ox that gores, and then you only pay chatzi nezek. So this in paskin that you pay half chatzi nezek. After he paskin, someone told him, Dayan, you're making a mistake because chatzi nezek is knas, and nowadays we can't enforce any knas. So if it's shame, then you could make him pay nezek shalom. But chatzi nezek, there's nothing to talk about. You paskin wrong. So the Dayan says, well, anyway, if it wasn't for that, I would have made a pshara because it's either nezek shalom or nothing. So I would have split it halfway. So they tell him, you can't do that. You can't do that at all. You can't just change your justification for a psak. I'm sorry, you can't do that. And they brought a right from this Gemara, where Reb Nachman told him, you can't just say, okay, I'm right for a different reason. No. Once your reason was wrong, you throw it out completely and you got to start from scratch. Okay, so Gemara weiter. Hani trei story, the Osul Kamed Rabbi Yosef. Two stories came to Rabbi Yosef, meaning some fellow sold the same property to Reuben and to Shimon, but he sold it to them both with a chrayis, meaning whoever loses it can come back and claim from the seller and also seize properties that the seller would have sold after this sale was done. So Chad have a cost of Becham Shabanisim. In one star, it said that the sale occurred on the 5th day of Nisan. The Chad have a Ksiv Benisim, Stoma. The other one said it was Nisan, but it doesn't say which day. So of course, Rabbi Yosef Paskin, Ukmar Rabbi Yosef, Lahuda Chamisha Benisan, Benachasa. He says the one who has a date, the 5th day of Nisan, he gets to keep the property. Amalei Idach Bano Afsid, now I lose out everything. It's not fair. Amalei, it is very fair. At Yodach Alatachtoina, you are on the bottom. You have the weaker hand. You know why? Because it doesn't say what day in Nisan you made a purchase. Maybe you made a purchase on the 29th day of Nisan, when this property belonged to the first buyer. So Farfal, this guy lost it, but at least he wants to go claim to the seller and maybe even seize properties that the seller sold after this sale, because those would be meshubatir. So Amar Lev and Nichtev Limar Tirfa, Rabbi Yosef, okay, you're ruling against me, but at least write me out a star that you told me that I have to give it to the other buyer, and now at least I can go make a claim against the seller and against anybody else who the seller sold to. And dated me'ir velach. Since we have to assume that my transaction happened the last day of Nisan, so anything from Ir and on, I should have the rights to seize, because that's surely after the shibud to me. Amalei, Rabbi Yosef said that won't work either, because if you try going to a later lakeach and seize the property because you lost your property, the lakeach will say, "I'm sorry, you didn't lose your property, because maybe you were the right owner of the property. Maybe your star was first. Maybe at Bar Chad B'Nisana. So I'm not going to give you anything. The other guy I'll give, and the other guy will push him off there. So even if you have a star tirfa, you won't be able to collect from anybody. You know why? Because they'll say, you don't have a claim on me. You have a claim on the other guy because maybe you bought it first. So my takante, what's the only way around it? They're going to have to use the power of attorney. So Rashi explains, he should work it out a deal with his friend who has the dated star of 5th day of Nisan. Let his friend give him his star, and and he could make me power of attorney to take away property from a lakeach who bought later if I lost my property. So if I come to collect from the lakeach for my own claim, if he tells me you don't have a right to claim from me because the property really belongs to you, you can tell him no problem, then I'm representing the other guy. Both of us have a chrayis. So both of us have recourse to seize your property. So either way, you have to answer to me either because of my own claim or because of the claim of the other person who bought it. Vani ba b'harshah lechem. I'm coming with a harsha to collect. No matter what, I have a hand here to collect. Vani ba b'harshah lechem mikoychai, through his appointment of making me a power of attorney. V'myoyvel lehu gadam v'yad ma'achav tos b'nisan. But if he tells you that no, he has no claim against me because he actually owns the property and you lost it, then I'm so if you have a power of attorney, then he can't weasel his way out of paying you because you have either way, you have a way to make the claim from him. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we finished the stop. Tomorrow is the last stop in the 10th parak of Kesubos. It's also the last stop in this section of the Masifta. I'm not sure about the art scroll. But I think our supposed to end the Masechta here. So have a good Tavach, everybody, and we should have we should be Zocheh to Zareinu v'Chaspenu Yar b'Kachol.
What time is this here, Morgan?
Morgen at men lernen 7 Zeiger